Hello YouTube, this is Hunter Surge here with the Tuesday card reveals. Today is Brawlers, which is very exciting because I like the Legion a lot. I like Legion as a mechanic a lot, and also Legion as a mechanic is our first indication of any kind of move away from Persona Ride, and I despise Persona Ride, so I appreciate any move away from it. Um, so yeah, let's get into the cards. Now, before we get into Brawlers today, we're going to just go quickly over the cards of the day and other stuff because there were a couple cards I missed in the Thursday video um, that were revealed in that stream. So we're going to quickly go over the cards of the day and also those. So, Dragon Empire cards of the day. It was Liquid Flow Dragon, which is a grade 2. When it's discarded from your hand by your card's ability, you can counterbalance one, draw a card. Really, really bad. Treasured Flame of Reincarnation, grade 3 set order. During your opponent's turn, when your rearguard gets retired by opponent's card effect, Energy Blast 3, put this into drop. Choose and add one of the retired cards back to your hand. Not like the worst thing in the world, but like not really worth that cost. And like not something that's going to be universally applicable enough against like every deck that you're always going to have a use for it. So like it would be a neat sideboard card if Vanguard had a sideboard. Brandgate. So double rare Brandgate card, quadruple circular, grade 2, 10k, yada yada. When it's placed on rear from hand and either player has locked cards or there is a set order in your order zone, you can counterblast one, choose and retire an opponent's grade 2 or lower rear guard. Generic retire in clans that don't normally get it is always like at least somewhat notable. IMO. Because especially retire that hits the back row specifically, and this hits the back row. That sort of thing is always like fairly notable. Could be pretty useful. However, in the context of Messiah, which is where this would be going in, you basically already have all the board clear that you want via the lock and then they bind. So like not particularly notable here. And rear and guardian, if your opponent has 2 or more cards in bind zone or you have 2 or more set orders in your order zone, this gets shield plus 5k. Then if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, it gets power plus 5k. So like all right numbers. It's okay-ish. It's not great. Then the grade 1 is if either player has a locked card, it gets power plus 5k and shield plus 5k. That's all right. We've seen a bunch of cards like this. They don't really tend to see play these grade 1 power plus 5k, shield plus 5k cards. But notably, very notably, this wants both players, either player, to have a locked card. More specifically, it wants to have your opponent have a locked card when you would be guarding with this. And in Breakgate, that currently is not possible. Chaos Breaker, perhaps? Obviously not this set, but I think I can't imagine it's going to be too long until we get a Chaos Breaker encounter, especially because like OG Chaos Breaker's effect is just like just lock one front row, which is about the same place that they were aiming for with Art Zarya. So like I can very easily see a world where they basically just print OG Chaos Breaker as is, maybe with some additional front row buff. And then they go, then they give it some like rear guard support. They gives it better numbers, gives it additional attacks, stuff like that. I could very easily see that happening. I think that would fit right at home with the power level of lock that they've established they seem to want with Artisaria. All right. With that said, let's move on to the next batch of cards of the day. It's some Divine Sister support. So I don't even remember what it does, but I remember fairly recently one of the tournament pack promo bosses was a Divine Sister boss card. So these are obviously meant to go in there. The grade 1 is a double rare. It's when placed on rear from hand. If you have a Vanguard with Divine Sister in its name, you look at the top 3 cards of your deck, call a Divine Sister in its name from among them with grade less than or equal to your Vanguard, and return the rest of the bottom of your deck. That effect on its own is very strong. If like you can get that, like if you're in a place where like every non-trigger and non-sentinel in your deck is a Divine Sister, and therefore that will go off pretty reliably. That is a very strong fact. Like just completely free plus to the board. Very very nice. And then back row, rear once per turn when you're rear guard with Divine Sister's name and in the same column as this attacks, and you have a greater or greater Vanguard. During this turn, the attacked unit gets power plus 5k. All right, moving on. Sorry about that noise. So, grade 3 Divine Sister. So yeah, is this a 13k booster effectively? The crack of the static, yada yada. Grade 3, grade 3 Divine Sister on rear during your turn. If you have a Vanguard Divine Sister in its name, it gets power plus 5k. And when it stands by the effect of your Divine Sister, Soul Blast 1, look at the top card of your deck, return it back to top or bottom of the deck. I don't recall if the restand part of the Divine Sister boss, like, is that on, if it's on attack, that's pretty nice because that's a scry that's happening right before your drive checks, which is super cool. Always love to see that sort of thing. But this card overall is like very, very mid. Being a grade 3, like grade 3 rears, like I really really want grade 3 rears to be like super powerful cards. Cards that like you look at it and like there's no way I can justify not running this card. Um and when they aren't, they feel super bad because they're cards that you're putting in your deck that have no shield, that can't contribute to your early game at all. It always feels super bad. And this is not in the power level where it's like, oh, this is essential. Not a good card. Not a good card in any capacity. Now, let's get into the stuff I missed from the Thursday stream. First was the Volume 5 Skyride promo. So this is a Brant Gate promo, grade 2. During your turn, if a card gets put into your order zone, you can counterblast 1, call it onto rear from drop. So it's the Combined Rusher effect. This is basically a creeped, kind of creeped Combined Rusher, kind of. During your turn, if you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard, this gets power plus 5k. If you have a Brawlers Vanguard and your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, was it this or? I'm double checking this translation. Okay, it is not or. The initial translations I saw floating around must have been wrong. So it is Brawlers Vanguard and your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater. It gets power plus 10k instead, which is a much more stringent condition for the power plus 10k than Combined Rusher has. And at the end of its battle, you can bind it to draw a card. So it is quite nice that it kills itself to draw a card. It's a good old Jeffrey. But binds itself so you no longer have access to it. Its persistent value, turn after turn. It's kind of the point of Combined Rusher type cards. So it's kind of weird. I'm not sure off the top of my head what the Brawlers decks would be. The Dimensional Robo deck would definitely be one, right? Pretty sure the Quick Start deck boss would also be one. Is Vanguard a Battleroid? Okay, yes. Vanguard is Battleroid. So it's Vanguard, Quick Start boss, Rotovisor, I assume, and Daiusha Daikaiser. Off the top of my head, though, you wouldn't want it in Dimensional Robos because it's not a Dimensional Robo. That deck is very archetypal. So really only 3 candidates, and of course, like when we get the Skyride Brant Gate deck, that'll obviously be a Battleroid deck, and this will be meant to go into it. But who knows if that will end up even lining up. We'll see. This card's a bit weird. It's definitely weaker than other Skyride promos we've seen in the past. I think all 4 of the previous Skyride promos have been much better cards than this. This isn't really providing anything super new to Grant Gate. It's just like Combine Rusher with, oh, you can make it no longer able to recur its value to draw a card. Um, and if you're going for that, like that's the kind of trade-in that makes more sense if you're going like that's the kind of trade-in that makes sense if you're like, oh, I'm killing this turn, but this isn't an effect for killing. This is an effect for I need a bit more value for my next turn to defend through it, which means you're expecting to have another turn, which makes it very weird. Like if you see multiple copies, I guess you feel safe, like binding the copies because you're like, okay, I have another one in rotation, so I can just start using that one. So there's some like decent stuff there, but like I don't know. I don't know. This card's weird. This card's very weird. Then we have the generic triple rare for Dragon Empire. This is a Dino Dragon Grade 2. With discard from your hand during the ride phase, you may call it onto rear in rest. If your Vanguard is a Grade 2 or greater Dino Dragon, you may call it as stand. If your Vanguard is Grade 2 or greater, it gets boost and can intercept from back row. And if your opponent's Vanguard is Grade 3 or greater, this unit gets shield plus 5k. So this is quite nice. This card's a bit unassuming, but this card is pretty nice. It is a free cycler card, a free ditch fodder that is live on your grade 1 ride. It will just call itself to back as rest, and then it'll stand during your next turn. Being a 10k booster is super nice. It's particularly nice in early game because 20k is the same thing as 23k in the early game, so its numbers line up super well in the early game. And on the going first turn 3, they're also going to line up pretty well, like behind like a 15k attacker, for example, it's going to be 25. Behind your Vanguard, it's going to be 23 before any other buffs. Like it lines up pretty nicely, and then it also intercepts from back row, which is very strong. Gives you more intercept capacity, and it's a plus 5k shield, so it's a shield, it's 10k shield. So it's just providing more shield to your deck as well. Just very nice card overall, despite how unassuming it is. Um, I don't think it's quite like triple rare worthy, and I'm not sure like a ton of Dragon Empire decks will end up using this, but this card does seem quite nice. I think this card is pretty good. And now let's talk about Brawlers, what we're all here for. All right, so starter, Brawler fighting Draco Kid. It's the boy. It's doing the same thing every starter in this game does because we're not allowed to have forerunners. Grade 1 ride line. So this is Tonfa Brawler Arc. So when it's placed on Vanguard Circle, you reveal a grade 3 with Brawler's card name from your ride deck. Look at 7 cards from the top of your deck. Add a non-sentinel with only one command from among them to your hand. Shuffle your deck. And then on rear, if you have a grade 3 or greater Brawler Vanguard, it gets power plus 2k. So it's like a 10k booster. You're never going to use it for that function, but it is what it is. Grade 2 ride line is our Legion mate, Big Bang / Dragon. So there's a lot going on with this card because it's both a ride line piece and an important rear guard and a Legion mate. So let's get into it. So when it's placed on Vanguard Circle, you reveal a grade 3 or greater Big Bang Knuckle from your ride deck. Or if you already have one on your Vanguard Circle, you soul last one, draw a card. Then, if it entered by the ability of D-Legion, your opponent chooses a rear from their back row, move it to an empty rear guard in the front row, and during this turn, all units in your front row get power plus 5k. That's a really nice front row buff, something that like Legion decks generally need because of the lack of Persona Ride. Then when it's placed on rear, and you have a Brawler Vanguard, you can counter last one to draw a card. So no matter where you place it, it has an effect to on place draw a card, which is pretty nice. Then on rear, continuous, during your turn, if you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard, this unit gets power plus 5k for each of your Vanguards with Brawler in its card name. So it's going to be a 20k attacker, which is a pretty nice place to be. Not gonna lie. It's a pretty good number place to be. Um, Then we have the boss card, Mr. Brawler Big Bang Knuckle. I've got to say, I don't really care for this art. I do think this art looks kind of lame. I think the grade 2 art looks fine-ish. I don't really like this grade 3 art though. Regardless, D Legion with Big Bang Slash Dragon, which is of course, if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, you return a total of 4 cards, including 2 non-heal and non-over trigger units, and 2 and then the other 2 have to be things that aren't triggers. From your drop to your deck, then you switch your deck and D Legion with the designated card from your deck. And while in D Legion, both cards lose Persona Ride, which isn't really relevant in this case. On Vanguard, once per turn, you solo last one. It gets power plus 5k. Then both players reveal 1 card from the top of your deck. If the card you revealed is a Brawler, or if it has a higher grade than the card your opponent revealed, during this turn, this unit gets critical plus 1. Add the card you revealed to hand, and your opponent will return the card they revealed to the bottom of the deck. So this effect is weird. I don't know why they included the higher grade bit. Like, theoretically, the idea is, okay, when you don't rip a Brawler, you still have a chance of getting the effect, right? Of getting that crit plus 1, which is very, very good. The problem is the main card, the cards that are going to be non-Brawlers in your deck are going to be like your triggers. And if you're revealing a trigger, you're not the one with the higher grade. um, it is really annoying that this crit gain effect is just like unreliable. It is fortunately like just like a act plus 1. But like it's really annoying that this effect is just not reliable. It's a crit gain Vanguard that like like a third of the time you're not actually going to get the crit, which sucks because also the times that you don't get a crit are times where you reveal that the top card of your deck was a trigger and then add it to your hand. It's yeah, that effect is not super great. It's nice that it's able to have some offensive pressure when on your first grade 3 turn before you can D-Legion. But this is a really strange effect and I don't like it very much. Then continuous on Vanguard. During your turn, if this unit is in D Legion, all units in your front row get power plus 5k. If you D Legion this turn, when this unit attacks, it battles with all units in your opponent's front row. So on the turn you're D Legion, your front row is getting plus 10k from this and the Big Bang Smash effect, which is pretty good. But maybe not quite enough to make up for the loss of Persona Ride. Of course, your Vanguard is going to double benefit from it because both the Legion and the Mate are units in your front row. So they're going to be getting plus 20k total. In addition to getting a plus 5k from this act. So they're going to be at like plus 25 on top of the 23 that it is by default. So it's going to be swinging 48 default with maybe a crit. Maybe it'll have a crit. Who knows? Then we have a grade 2 triple rare Brawler Wildfish Dragon. This card is interesting, but we'll get into that. So, in the drop, if you have a Vanguard with Brawler as card name, you can counterblast 1, call it to rare. Pretty nice. On Vanguard or Rear, when your grade 3 or greater Brawler Vanguard attacks, and during this battle your units have not stood, you counterblast 1, stand this, and it gets power plus 10k. And during your turn, if your Vanguard is in D Legion, this unit gets power plus 5k. So first swing, it's going to be like 25 if it's a D Legion turn, smaller otherwise. And then on restand, it's going to have an additional plus 10k. Now, this card is weird because it both costs counterblast for its self-revival and counterblast for the multi-attack effect, which is going to make this deck very counterblast heavy. Despite there being no counterblast costs on your Vanguard circle. Which is not great. This also doesn't enable 5 attacks. There is a way we can get 5 attacks, but we'll get into that. Alright, and the other thing to note about this is that this restand effect is actually on Vanguard or Rear. And the thing about Wild Fist is Wild Fist Dragon was the Legion mate of a Brawler Legion where the leader was Wild Rush Dragon. So this heavily suggests to me that at some point we are going to get the Legion leader, maybe as a promo boss. And that would be very interesting because then this becomes restand your Vanguard, which is pretty cool. Um, so I'll be interested to see how that pans out when we get that. I really like that they're exploring the part of Legion where like your mates can potentially have Vanguard effects as well, and you can dip into those as well. I really like that part of Legion, and it's something I wish original Legion explored more outside of exactly Revival Legions. So this card's real cool. Let's talk about the other stuff. Grade 1, Kome, when it's placed on rear and you have a grade 3 or greater Brawler Vanguard, your opponent cannot intercept this turn. Very, very nice because for our multi-attacks, we want to attack with 2 of our rears before our Vanguard. And since we can only attack front rows with the Brawler attack multiple things effect, unlike Vermilion, which can choose to target back rows with that. It feels pretty important that this is able that we have some mechanism by which we can stop our opponent from intercepting, so that we can still clear those things without them getting any value out of it, and trigger any Vanguard hitting multiple times effect that we care about. Then we have grade 2, Agony Claw. When this attacks and you have a grade 3. Oh, there's a second effect on this guy, I forgot. At the end of its battle, if it boosted a Brawler Vanguard, you can put into Soul, look top 7 for a card with the same name as one of your Vanguards. So either the Legion Leader or the Legion Mate. That's still only 6 targets, and you have to shove it into Soul to activate that, so it doesn't feel super great. But it's like, alright. Then Agony Claw Dragon. When this attacks and you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard with only Narukami in its name and its clan, Soul Blast 1, it gets power plus, this unit gets power plus 5k. And if your Vanguard's attack hit during this turn, it gets power plus 10k instead. Then grade 1, this is the last of the cards. During your turn, if you have a grade 3 or greater Brawler Vanguard, all your other units in the same column as this get power plus 5k. This is just a worse version of a generic card that Narukami has access to, so you're not going to run this. Let's go over some other existing cards that are going to be pretty important for this deck. Thunderstorm Dragoon is an important one to note. This is the grade 2 from the Vermilion ride line. Was wrote upon by a grade 3 with only Narukami in its clan. You look top 7 of your deck, and you choose up to 1 card with only Narukami in its clan, or up to 1 Eternal Thunderbolt. So obviously we won't be running Eternal Thunderbolt because that only works for Vermilion. But adding any Narukami off our top 7 will be pretty reliable. So you can just it will be probably correct. I can't see any reason to do otherwise. To just run this as your grade 2 ride line over the Legion Mate. And that means that well, like if yeah, you would be running multiple to Legion Mate anyway, so it's not like you would have to throw one back if you had it in your ride line. But like this is just a better just a better ride line grade 2. So no real reason to not be running this over the Legion Mate in ride deck. Then we have I want to note Ryoto. This is of course part of the generic cycle from DZPT09. The important part, of course, is that it's on the attack that if the attack it boosts hits, you can retire to countercharge 1. Because our aim is for our Brawler Vanguard to attack multiple front rows, one of those is certainly going to hit, and this doesn't care about if you're hitting a Vanguard or a rear guard. So this is decently reliable countercharge for the deck, which is pretty cool. And it's going to need it. It is going to need the countercharge. Then we have Rising Phoenix. So this was reprinted in this got lined up for a reprint in the upcoming tournament pack. Rising Phoenix is, of course, an important source of multi-attacks in Vermilion, where it can call itself from drop even during the battle phase if you bound a card during your turn by a card effect. Now, of course, you might notice that we have no mechanism of doing that in Brawler as is. Fortunately, there's a generic that allows us to do this. Yunjin. So this is on attack. If you have a greater Vanguard with Coded Blaze, or if you have a Vanguard with only one clan, you choose a grade 2 or less with a different card name from this unit from your drop. Point your soul. Then if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, it gets power plus 5k. But the important part is at the end of the battle, attacked, counter last one, draw a card, and then you put this into soul or you bind it. So this is a way for you to get a bind during your battle phase. To call back the Rising Phoenix. The Rising Phoenix is going to be getting the plus 10Ks from the effect of the Legion Leader and the Legion Mate, which is pretty solid. So like that's going to be 18K. Then we leave up a booster for it. And the natural choice for that booster will, of course, be Spark Spike Dragon. This is the card I was mentioning earlier. That's just straight better than that grade 1 that gives plus 5k to other stuff in his column. If you have a Vanguard with only Narukami in its clan, it gets Narukami. So it's a target for Dragoon, the grade 2 Dragoon. And then if you have a Narukami Vanguard, it gives all rearguards in the same column power plus 5k. But if your Vanguard's attack hit 2 or more times this turn, it gives power plus 10k instead. And then at the end of the battle boosted, if your Vanguard's attack hit 2 or more times this turn, you Energy Blaster and draw a card. So very, very good card. So this will not enable us to get this will first mean that our Yunjin is hitting for 30k with the Legion boosts. Because it's going to have the plus 5k itself, it's going to have plus 5k from Spark Spike, and then it's going to have plus 10k from our Legion buffs. So that's pretty good. That 30k initial swing, that's solid enough. Then our Rising Phoenix swing is going to be 18, 28, 36, so effectively 33. So that's like good enough numbers. That's solid enough numbers. It's not super great, but it's a way for us to get to 5 attacks. Spark Spike is just generally a really good card. So yeah, those numbers are pretty good. Spark Spike is just a really good card. I like Spark Spike a lot. We're really going to need that intercept turning off though, because like we just can't, unless our opponent gives us a grade 3, unless our opponent puts out a grade 3 rear guard, there's just no universe where we can bring up a grade 1 actually, with the effect of our Legion Mate. That's actually very good for ensuring we get 2 hits if our Vanguard's attack hits. But we really want to be hitting 2 front or rears. And for that, we really need the intercept turn off for that to be any kind of reliable. So that card's going to be really, really important. And unlike Fargo, we can't just loop the card. So it's not going to be as reliable. But that card is definitely still really, really important for what the deck wants to be doing for its maximum output. That is Brawlers. It's all right. I'm not super impressed by the deck. I don't think it's going to be super good. And you have to pay. It's a Counterblast 2 for 5 attacks deck, which always feels not the greatest. Ryuto is some pretty reliable counter charge at the very least. So that is nice. Definitely really appreciated. Definitely something the deck really, really needed. Especially because if you use the self-revival effect, that is now a 3 counterblast 5 attack turn. It's very expensive on the counterblast side, and I wish the restand effect on Wild Rush or the revival effect on Wild Fist. I wish either the revival effect or the restand effect was Energy Blast instead of Counterblast. That would be really, really appreciated. But it is what it is. So that's Brawlers. Not super impressed. I don't think it'll do anything like super strong. I don't see any like really standout traits with this deck. But it's all right. It'll be fun. And then for next Tuesday, we are getting the full deck list of the Hikari and Erika Master deck sets, as well as we are finally getting the Gancelot reveal, and we are getting a new Nationless Overtrigger. So that'll be cool. I can't help but notice that the design of this Overtrigger, it reminds me of the Nationless Dragon Tree Wretch that we're getting on Thursday. Like aesthetic feels like kind of similar. Um, so we'll see if it's related anyway. Maybe this is meant to go in Masks and Severgilla and Griffogilla. Maybe that's what this is intended for. That would be neat, I guess. An archetypal Overtrigger. Be kind of a lie of the premise of being nationless, but we'll see. With that said, this is going to be Hunter Surge signing off.